If you've been watching the news, you'll notice that AstraZeneca has just been approved by the United Kingdom. So now many people are asking, how do the two vaccines compare? How does AstraZeneca compare to the Pfizer BioNtech vaccine? Well, this slideshow is done just to compare the two vaccines, and so you can make a better choice on which one you should choose if that's a possibility. The most important thing about a vaccine is its immune response. Basically, a good immune response means a good vaccine. Unfortunately for the AstraZeneca vaccine, mainly what you're seeing is what they call a humoral immunity, which is mediated by memory B cells. This is actually meaning that the immunity that you're receiving is what you've already got. So it's only recognizing the spike protein as a result of perhaps previous exposure to the cold. Now, what's even more disturbing is one of the exclusion criteria was anyone who got the COVID virus within 14 days, they were actually taken out of the trial. To me, that's highly suspicious. The other thing I find a bit problematic as well is that you'll notice their immune response in some patients dropped by 50% within 42 days. Now, this is something you never hear about when they talk about AstraZeneca. All you hear is about this 100% chance of not getting a serious infection. Maybe that's because they excluded everybody out within 14 days who did have an infection. And you'll see this little diagram in the center. Basically, what it does, it illustrates a humoral antibody response. It's a very mild response. It's not always, it doesn't always trigger T cells or B cells. So it might give you some short-term immunity, and hopefully for the people who do choose to get it, they get long-term immunity, but it's very unlikely that it's going to do so. You'll find that the Pfizer vaccine gives you a massive response. What you can see in this illustration is that it gives you a CD8 count, a CD4 count, it stimulates Th1 cells, and with time I'm sure it will show that it stimulates memory B cells. Now this cascade is really important for long-term immunity. Now also you can see in the diagram, they not only looked at the original Wuhan strain, they actually looked at possible mutations. In fact, they looked at 20 different mutations to make sure that the vaccine would work, even if the spike protein mutated. Now, you'll notice in the news, AstraZeneca has just been lying about the immune response. They've been saying it's going to work against the mutation, even though they never designed it for mutations. In this slide, you can see this is actually a copy and paste from the Lancet journal article, which you can review yourself. And what it's really showing is the low response of efficacy you get with the AstraZeneca one. In fact, the full dose actually shows a 55% efficacy rating, which is terrible, absolutely terrible. And in the half full dose, you get a 71%. Now, you have to remember what they're actually launching in England now is actually a full dose vaccine. The reason being they've rushed it through because they just don't have the time to get the scaled up version of the half full dose reaction, and so to rush it through they just use the data from the full dose reaction. I mean, this is not suitable for really anybody, and if you're going to say 55% in real time, if you get a mutation, that should drop even lower. You look at the results for Pfizer, I mean, it just blows you away. You're getting a 94.6% efficacy on average. You have children getting 100% efficacy, and people greater than 75 with 100% efficacy. You really can't beat that with any vaccine. Look at the vaccine design. AstraZeneca uses an adenovirus chimpanzee virus. Now, you can see they basically worked out the gene sequence for the original Wuhan strain. They added that strain to the adenovirus for the chimpanzee. They inactivated it so it wouldn't replicate, but it would insert the DNA for the spike protein, and therefore that spike protein would be picked up, and if they would come in contact to the original Wuhan strain, it would be activated. Now, I emphasize it only activates if the spike protein is very close to the original Wuhan strain, and that's only in theory. This is how the mRNA one. from BioNtech works. What they've done is they basically hit this for a 6. What they've done is they've got the mRNA that codes for the spike protein, but not just one spike protein, but 20 different possible pseudoviruses, just in case it would mutate. And guess what? It has mutated. So this vaccine is capable of not only detecting the original Wuhan version, but also to do 20 possible variations. And Ugur Sahin actually said if by some chance that it didn't work, within 6 weeks he could basically add the new strain and hypothetically predict future new strains. So he's really covered it to an extent that it's future-proof, this vaccine. Now, there's an AstraZeneca dilemma. Because they're using the chimpanzee adenovirus, they've assumed that humans have not been exposed to it, so it will actually work. Unfortunately, in people in sub-Saharan Africa, they actually eat chimpanzees. That means they will be exposed to the chimpanzee adenovirus through genetics. And because of that, this is not going to work on them. Also, in other studies where they tried to make a HIV vaccine from the adenovirus, they actually found the adenovirus made HIV worse. So it's really a very bad choice for Africa to use an adenovirus as a vector to create a vaccine. So this was a very bad decision, and it should never be used in Africa. Maybe in places like Thailand, India, or even Australia, where people haven't been exposed to chimpanzees, it theoretically would be okay, except for the efficacy is so bad that you shouldn't even use it in any country. I guess with vaccine developers is usually not important, but it is important for this vaccine, is what religious people think about the vaccine. Basically, every religious group in the world endorses the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine. The reason is it doesn't involve fetal cells. However, it is condemned by the Catholic Church because they've used human fetal cells to grow the virus. And Muslims also will not use it unless there is no other alternative. But because Moderna and BioNtech both have a safer alternative that doesn't use fetal cells, the Muslim community and Catholic community will push for the Pfizer BioNtech vaccine and perhaps even Moderna. So in summary, AstraZeneca is only good for a very small group of people, and many Muslims and Catholics will refuse to take it or not be happy taking it.